This video is brought to you by Law Excellence IAS Academy.
Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Law Excellence R&D. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 19th August 2019. The first article for discussion, that is the idea of India is failing. So what is the idea of India in this particular article? So our constitutional forefathers based on this idea of India surrounding pluralism, which flows from the diversity of this country. This is the basis for unity in diversity. In this process, certain states and regions and certain social groups, these were given special provisions and they are placed under Article 370, 371. This is nothing but the reflection of this diversity and to send a message to everyone that India belongs to all. So, Article 370 is related to Jammu and Kashmir. So, the way Article 370 is abrogated or removed, it is a clear disrespect to the constitutional process and its spirit. Why? Because the Constitution has clearly stated that it can only be removed by Constitution Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. But it has been read as the Legislative Assembly. As Legislative Assembly do not exist in President's rule, the Parliament took over the responsibility. And the second is the pluralism calls for debate, dialogue, and inclusivity. So, here the debate and dialogue, consultation with the political groups, everything is missing. And the next part to this is inclusivity. So, in a democracy, all the social groups living in a particular political territory shall sit together, discuss, and debate. But here, the differences which are existing between the people, they are aggravated to take up this Article 370. Now, is Article 370 is so important? It is more of symbolic value. From the Congress days, Nehru days itself, the Article 370 and its provisions were diluted by various presidential orders. It is just a shell, there is no content or substance inside. But that shell has a lot of symbolic value and unique place the Kashmiris had for themselves. Now, what is lost is this symbolic value. And the third thing is there are three major things which have stated to be which are stated to have shook the democracy. One is emergency imposed by Indira Gandhi, and the second is demolition of Babri Masjid, and the third is taking away of Article 370. So these three are the major things which have increased the divides among the people. That's how the author tries to put it as. The next is a lose-lose scenario. So this article is again about Kashmir. So after Article 370 has been removed, the government has a responsibility to prove its decision as right. So in this context, what it is promoting is the local politics. So the Abdullah's Muftis who formed the center of Kashmiri politics recently, these are being pushed backwards and a new stream of political leadership is expected to come up. So in this context, the government is mooting up local government elections or panchayat elections to generate the second rung leadership. And the second thing is it is promising development to Kashmir. Already Confederation of Indian Industry, industrialists like Ambani, these have stated their wish to invest in Kashmir. So the government is trying to push its development agenda as a rhetoric and a narrative in Kashmir. And the third thing is there is a stark point over here. Normally, whenever a particular part of the country is shut down, the democratic voices raise against it. And the second is the federalism, after how the Article 370 is removed, how the state was broken into parts as union territories, is clear indication that the federalism is under danger. But however, most of the regional parties have supported Article 370. So, is this due to fear or inability to visualize the long term consequences of their decisions? It is not yet clear as of now. So, in this case, so developing the new political leadership in Kashmir and taking forward the development agenda and proving that Article 370 and 35A were the articles which were holding them back for these many days. This was appears to be the government's agenda today. An intervention that leads to more questions. This article is about no first use doctrine of India. So, after Pokhran, India has taken up this nuclear doctrine. So, the most important things are credible minimum deterrence. It means India will not be in arms race. It will only have the weapons which are necessary to maintain the deterrence. And second is no first use policy. Unless someone uses the weapons of mass destruction against it, it will not use nuclear weapons. So it is strong retaliatory response which India will resort to. It means nuclear weapons are not going to be the weapons of first instance. This improved the confidence of the global nations on India, and this is the reason why India got the NSG waiver. India is also seen today as a responsible nuclear power. So, further, India wants to be a member of Australian Group, NSG, and everything nuclear suppliers group, SNR group, everywhere. So, India is going to bargain itself as a responsible nuclear power. But creating ambiguity, it will not attract the confidence of the nations on nuclear policy of India. Second, ambiguity leads to arms race in the subcontinent, and also it can prove a particular situation more volatile. So, the nuclear doctrine, which has brought the stability, is being replaced by more volatile policy. And the third thing here, remember one is simple issue. No first use is important for India for its own strength. NFU, if it has to be there, the country has to feel that it's strong. And no first use policy also has kept the moral limitations on the other countries to threat India of the nuclear weapons. So the war is always on conventional weapons. In conventional warfare, India has a high ground with Pakistan. So in a nuclear warfare, both of them becomes equal. So the natural advantage India had on conventional warfare will be lost if the world is being watched on the nuclear war or threat of the nuclear war between these two countries. And many of the issues which were bilateral between India and Pakistan can become global. So it is not good for India to maintain any ambiguity. The same is this article too. What this article states is the no first use policy has worked for India till now. Its entire command and control structure is based on this no first use doctrine. The nuclear triad which India made, that is to fire a nuclear weapon from water, air, or surface, is purely based on this doctrine. And there is no circumstances in India or in the neighborhood where India has to revise this policy. And ambiguity in nuclear doctrine will lead to arms race, and it is not good for the world and in particular India. That's what the author says. Taking on TB. In the TB, today drug resistance is the major problem. We have multi drug resistant TB, extended drug resistant TB. A new drug which has come into existence that is called pretomanid. So this drug pretomanid, it has proven to be effective, and the disease prevalence is decreasing, and the second is the treatment tenure duration is also coming down. But unless this cost of the drug comes down, it will not be really useful for the people. The reason is most of the people suffering with TB are from the poverty sections of the society, and it is also prevalent. XDR TB, MDR TB is prevalent in people living with HIV. So in this context, the drug can be better put to use to decrease the prevalence of the TB, only affordability to it increases. A law for those who testify. This is written in the context of attack on Unnao rape victim. So in this scenario, witness and victim protection laws do not exist in India. The Supreme Court also gave a directive that India shall have a witness protection program. So in this scenario, Maharashtra is the only state that has the witness protection program, but it is also not complete. So not just from the witness is to be protected from retaliators. Even she has to be protected from the police because the police criminal politics nexus is very strong in Indian society. The next is journalism counters manufactured ignorance. Here, the or the growing knowledge is also growing ignorance along with it. So the social media is an echo chamber. It means the same opinions are expressed again and again in social media. So this wall of ignorance, mountain of ignorance, has to be fought. So in this context, the manufactured ignorance, if it has to be fought, the credible journalism has to grow. So this credible journalism need to be encouraged. That is the essence of the author over here. India, Bhutan are natural partners. The Prime Minister Modi states clearly that the Buddhism is the connection which is made India and Bhutan as natural partners. The next, call for a comprehensive national energy policy. Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao says that in some part of India there is power deficit, in some other parts there is power surplus, and the production halts are happening. So, if this has to solved, we need to have a comprehensive national energy policy. So the power surplus regions and deficit regions has to be connected with each other. Already the national grid is in the process. The required systems and procedures have to be in place for the states to buy the power from the surplus states. Financial crisis like situation in country. What makes Congress to make this statement? The first is there is recession in automobile sector and also in real estate sector. Next, the GDP growth rates are falling and fiscal deficit of India is widening. And along with this, the foreign direct investments have decreased dramatically and institutional investors are flying away from the stock markets. And rupee value is also constantly getting depreciated. So when we see all these things, the economy appears to be moving towards a slump. All these are critically seen in the fall in employment levels in India. These are the things we have to understand. And then, thank you. Have a great day. All the best.